It's not new at all. And while the collapse of the Taliban and the fact that the Taliban is in the news has been used by Hindu nationalists as a way to further Islamophobia, India has been seeing actually increased Islamophobia for the last approximately 7 years, with a sharp rise in far-right Hindu nationalism in India. So this actually has led to a series, for example, in the last 1 month, there have been a series of public attacks on mostly working class Muslims, small vendors, people who are selling small trinkets and so on and so forth, fruit sellers. And they've come under increasing attack. And there hasn't been a lot of movement from the ruling party. In fact, even there might have been tacit encouragement around these attacks.
Yeah, and it's a good point you make, because the videos are actually posted of some of these brutal beatings that these Muslims get in public. And it would seem sometimes that some of the police officers on motorbikes are kind of circling and doing absolutely nothing to stop it.
Exactly, Bev. That's how brazen it is that the people who are actually committing these crimes or committing these assaults are very often actually shooting videos of these assaults and uploading them on social media themselves, because they're so confident that there will be so little repercussion, there will be so little law and order, there'll be so little cases booked over here, that and it will actually help them in their political career by identifying them with the ruling ideology that this is happening. So it's quite unfortunate and more than a bit scary.
Are any of them ever prosecuted? Are any of them ever brought to justice?
Well, yes, the short answer is yes, but very often the prosecution, many Muslims would look at it as an eyewash. They would look at it as going through the motions. Much more can be done under India's legal system, which unfortunately isn't really. I mean, just to give you an example, a couple of days back, a man accused of some pretty horrific hate speech of ethnic cleansing around Muslims in India, actually surrendered to the police. And if you looked at his surrender procession, it was a party. I mean, he was lifted on shoulders. There were people dancing around him. So it was a victory procession in which he surrendered to the police. So, the arrest really, if law and order is meant to have a punitive effect on society, that arrest did not really have it.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. Shoaib, tell me, why are these attacks on the rise? I mean, it is a minority group, we know, in India, but still, it's a significant 200 million people population.
True, but India is 1.3 billion, so everything when you're looking
It's
at
relative.
India is relative, is big. So Muslims make around 1 out of every 6 Indians. So uh, uh, there is, I think, there are a number of reasons. Hindu-Muslim tensions in India are a very long story, but I think the explicit factor nowadays is the fact that the authorities turn a blind eye. Very often there is tacit support. People who carry out these acts, rather than seeing any punitive action, see their political careers advance. So in this sort of thing, you're really incentivized to bring out the worst elements in society, and which is unfortunately what we're seeing happening.
Yes, and of course, Prime Minister Modi himself has got that kind of nationalistic fervour. Does that encourage it as well?
For sure, that's part of the mix. That's part of the mix that is driving this ideology in India. The fact that Mr. Modi himself has, and in 2002, has oversaw a horrific rioting in his home state of Gujarat. So it's part of his image of being a Hindu strongman, so Modi will, right now as Prime Minister, would not explicitly condone these acts, but he would also, on the other hand, rarely condemn them. So very often the Hindutva foot soldier on the ground looks at Modi as an encouraging figure, rather than looking at Modi as someone who would discourage this sort of hate crime.
Yeah, and has anyone at a state level take any action, stand up against it?
No, I mean, so India has a federal structure in which some states are ruled by the BJP, which is a ruling Hindu nationalist party. So those states are, I would say, are lax when it comes to this. So you will mostly see these attacks happening in these states. But in states ruled by other parties, where these sort of attacks would actually see real punitive action, they wouldn't be that common in those states. So it's not a uniform thing. India's a big country, so it depends really on which state you are, because because the attacks are so brazen, you need the authorities on your side, so to speak, to be able to carry out these attacks. Remember, people are broadcasting them themselves. People are putting these videos up on their Facebook and their Instagram, and so on. So yeah, it's not uniform, but it's still quite great.
Well, I really appreciate you shining a light on it, Shoaib. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Bev.